So today we're here with Tom Hoines, who is a director of Low Carbon Hub, a community energy enterprise in Oxford, and also managing director of Co-op Community Energy, which is a partnership between three organisations, including Octopus Energy and Mid Counties Co-op, who work to support community energy groups across the UK. Thank you for joining us, Tom.
No problem.
Can you tell us where the community/cooperative movement has come from and how it's adapted to sustainable energy?
Yeah, I mean, the cooperative movement was started in the mid-1800s. Sort of cooperative businesses probably date back a little bit earlier than that, but the first recognised cooperative movement were the Rochdale Pioneers, 1844, I believe. I'll have to check with the Mid Counties guys on that, but I'm fairly sure that's right. You know, the best known version of a cooperative business are the retail businesses. So you have the co-op retail food stores, you have the funeral care, childcare, and about 10 years ago or so, there was an energy business formed as well, which was the supply business Co-op Energy. How it started in sustainability and renewable energy, I think one of, if not the first project was the Baywind Co-op, which was a wind site at Harlock Hill. And that was the first, I believe, community-owned project where a community came together and invested into buying a wind farm. And since then, you've seen, I think we're up to around 400 community energy projects all across the UK. And they take various different forms. It's quite difficult to define what a community energy project is. There are probably different definitions in Scotland as there are in England, and probably again in Wales as well. But largely, I think the idea of local people or people with a shared interest coming together to finance and invest and develop new build renewable generation projects where all of the investors are members of that project. They all have a vote in how that project is run and how the profits are shared and what happens to all of the revenues from that project. And it will quite often have a community benefit or a community schemes or initiatives out the back of it where the profits are ploughed back into supporting local initiatives. And I think one of the interesting things, one of the driving principles behind being a cooperative is this idea of co-ops and working with other co-ops. So I think that's why Co-op Energy, you know, all those years ago was very keen to work with other community energy projects because it's known as Principle 6, co-ops working with co-ops. And I think you see that across the board is that different community energy groups, different co-ops across the country really working together to try and develop a more sustainable future.
That's really interesting. So there's quite a focus on local engagement and sort of this concept of energy democracy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think if these projects need to be built, which they do, from a sustainability point of view, I don't think anyone can argue with the need for more renewable generation on the grid. But if these projects are going to be built, then and everyone uses electricity, everyone uses the product, and if they're going to be built in people's communities, then it's the community who should be able to have a say in how those projects are run, in what happens to the profits from those projects. But also, I think the key thing is being able to feel like you can have some element of control over some of the global issues that we're facing. And I think, you know, the new build generation is fantastic and is a worthy means anyway. But when you look at the local benefits that can come out of these projects, whether it's helping people in fuel poverty or looking at carbon reduction projects in houses or in offices, providing cheap electricity to schools, all of these different things that come out the back of these projects, it's an extremely exciting proposition. I think at the core, community energy is about people being able to take action on a global issue of sustainability and trying to affect climate change, feeling that they can have a positive impact and take some control of that is when you have global issues like that, it's often difficult to see what you can do about it. You know, we all want to recycle, we all want to live a sustainable lifestyle, but on top of that, it's hard to know where to go. So I think community energy offers that chance and that vehicle for people to feel like they're having an impact.
And I understand that Low Carbon Hub have worked on quite a range of different projects, from renewable energy generation to what you call powering down, using less energy, but also innovation projects as well. Can you give us some idea as to what benefits we've seen from Low Carbon Hub in the local community for Oxford?
Yeah, sure. So the Low Carbon Hub has been around for under 10 years. So it's a relatively new organisation, but still one of the stalwarts of sort of the community energy world. They've completed around, I think it's 45 installations across Oxfordshire. Probably the flagship, or the one that gathered the most press, was Sandford Hydro, which is a 500 kilowatt hydro on the River Thames. I think it's the largest community-owned project on the Thames, but they've also looked at solar installations on schools, Oxford Bus Company. They have a very good relationship with Oxford Council, who sort of open doors and help them get these projects through. And I think the benefit that you've seen, I mean, there are several different types of benefit that they offer. The simplest one to look at is I think it's around £400,000 of community benefit has been deployed from the Low Carbon Hub. Wow. And that figure is growing. You know, the more installations and the more generation they get from the likes of Sandford and things, the more that pot will grow and the more that commitment to supporting communities will grow. But then you have a look at some of the slightly less easily calculated stuff, the less tangible stuff, and they have created a help desk to support different low carbon community groups across Oxfordshire, where they can phone the low carbon help desk and ask for support on setting up a project or how to run a project efficiently, or you know, they may have an idea for a new installation that they want to run by the hub. And I think that idea of the hub working with other local community groups and being, you know, as the clues in the name, being that hub of different community groups is one of the most powerful things about it.
Amazing. And it seems that community energy enterprises are now taking on some more experimental, some more complex innovation projects. Low Carbon Hub are working on Project Leo. Can you tell us a bit about why community energy groups are well placed to take on these innovation projects and what the aim of Project Leo is?
Yeah, I mean, I think community groups tend to be well placed. Most of the time, these groups are formed out of volunteers, or you know, and they may eventually become full-time employees, which you know the low carbon has. But first and foremost, they're usually formed of extremely well-informed, intelligent, smart people who know what they're doing and can really drive through these projects. You have to be extremely passionate about these projects to get them through. It's an extremely challenging environment. The energy industry is a tough one to operate in. So I think that's one of the key things. The Project Leo is an incredibly ambitious and very, very exciting project. It's a £40 million project over 3 years. It's pulling together some very serious resource from some big organisations. And the Low Carbon Hub, I think, are best placed because this project is looking to change the way that people engage with energy. And, you know, the connections that the Low Carbon Hub have in different communities and that experience of working with different communities and building up the reputation that they have over the last 10 years within Oxfordshire, they're extremely well placed to help drive forward this initiative. And you almost couldn't see this sort of project happening without them because of that need for the engagement with the public and the community in which they're trying to operate. So it's a big, challenging behemoth of a project, but I know they're all extremely motivated by it and very excited about what the outcomes could be.
Amazing. What can people do today if they're interested to get more involved?
So there's a load of things you can do. There's community groups, as I say, when I've spoken to these different groups all over the country, one of the big things that they're very interested in is what does membership mean to them? And typically a community energy member will be an investor, but there's often a call for volunteers to help with sustainability work, to help with local community initiatives. So, you know, there's 400 of these projects across the country. You're never too far away from one. So there's always a local project that you can look to help. You don't have to live locally to invest. So if you do want to invest, or if you do have the capital to put into one of these projects, then you can do it even if there's not one nearby. But if you don't have that money, then there are always other opportunities to volunteer and support. The other thing that's interesting as well is consumers using their buying power and their purchasing power to support energy supply, which is one of the key things that we're here to do, is using energy tariffs that support community energy projects. So switching to one of those tariffs, we have the Community Power Tarrif, which is 100% backed by power purchase agreements with renewable generators, and those sort of things will really support those projects. I think another way that community groups, individuals could support is, you know, we've worked closely with Co-op Energy to create a community power tariff, which is a product that, a domestic supply product, which is entirely backed with generation from community energy products. And if for every customer that switches to that product, we've created a community power fund, which community energy groups can apply into. So we're hoping to make the announcement on the first round of funds this month, and we'll be doing another round of fund, which will hopefully be closing in December this year. And the more people that switch to that tariff and support community energy, the bigger that fund becomes, and the bigger the pot for groups who want to apply into it to support the work they're doing.
Amazing. So essentially, not only can you go and volunteer and get involved in your local group, you can also power your own home with community energy, which supports these kind of mini green power stations all around the country. Okay. So thank you so much, Tom. That was a really insightful and really interesting interview. If you as viewers would like to get involved in community energy, or you'd like to find out more about Low Carbon Hub or Co-op Community Energy, click on the links down in the description and you can go on their websites and find out what action you can take to get involved in community energy.
Brilliant.